don't try and be something that you're not. There's all the memes at the moment, isn't there, about Mark Zuckerberg and like this brand transformation that he's been on and stuff. But like, don't be extreme, because it will come off as not authentic. It will come off as, fake, and people won't buy into it.
In this episode of We Built This Business, Jordan Stachini of Co & Co talks about her journey from a corporate job to launching her own marketing agency. Jordan discusses the challenges of entrepreneurship, building a personal brand, the importance of authenticity, building community, and her no-fluff marketing approach. Let's head over to the podcast. Hello. Today I'm pleased to have Jordan Stachini on the We Built This Business podcast talking about Co & Co. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
So Jordan, really looking forward to finding out about Co & Co today. If we could just start by talking about today. So what is Co & Co all about?
So Co & Co are essentially a marketing agency. We're based up in Manchester city centre, focused on three kind of key main areas. So hardcore ROI-driven strategy. How are you going to make more sales and drive more revenue from the activity that you do? Social. So, social media, organic social. So really about building that kind of community. And then branding and activations and brand activation. So working on quite large scale activations for brands, and again helping to drive that offline kind of business and drive that relationship that is becoming increasingly more important for every brand to have with their audience. But kind of what underpins everything for us is that obsession with ROI. So I'm quite well known as being ROI-Obsessed, and if it doesn't make dollar, it doesn't make sense. So we really try and work with clients to help them understand that you can do any type of activity and you can drive an ROI from it, but also ROI is lots of different things. And a bit like how all jacuzzis are hot tubs, but not all hot tubs are jacuzzis. All sales are conversions, but not all conversions are sales. So, if you're just constantly trying to chase that sale, then you're missing out on quite a big percentage of the market. And actually there's a longer game to play with a lot of buyers and consumers, no matter what sector you're in. So we have this kind of ROI obsession that underpins everything. But as part of that, we really have to work with people to get them to understand that doesn't mean make your till ring today. That's make your till ring today, tomorrow, in a month, in a year, and build that longevity with your audience.
Sounds fascinating. I mean, it sounds like you've got a lot going on. It's really interesting as well, the focus on the ROI, because like you say, if it doesn't pay, it doesn't pay. And that's what the thing with marketing that most people forget sometimes. They do a fantastic campaign, but does it actually bring in the money? So yeah, we'll get into a lot more detail on that side. But first of all, can I just ask, what size agency are you? What kind of your turnover? How many staff do you have? All that sort of side of things.
Yeah. So we're a small agency. So there's 6 of us, 4 full-time and then 2 part-time. Turnover is healthy. I'm not going to go into specific numbers, but very healthy. We became a 6-figure agency from year one, really, which was good. But we've also, we've kind of doubled or tripled that revenue every year since we started. That was nearly 5 years ago. And yeah, I mean, my aim is never to be a massive agency. I think maybe double the size we are now, and then I'd be happy at that. I don't want to be the next Saatchi and Saatchi or whatever. My whole thing is about doing good work, and I think sometimes it's difficult, isn't it? I think sometimes there's a toss-up of you can grow really big, but then you've got to kind of maybe take on projects or work that you don't love, or you know that doesn't kind of get you excited or whatever. And there's that balance of chasing payroll every month and then actually, having a nice place that people want to come to work and being able to sleep at night and all those things. So, I say that it was never my aim to even have an agency in the first place. So, I guess maybe careful what you wish for. But, that's kind of the goal really, is probably to get to double the size we are now and then just level out.
Love that. So starting with the end in mind as well, which is a good place to be. So you know what you're going for. So let's go back, Jordan, to before you started the business and before we talk about how you actually started Co & Co. What got you excited or involved in marketing once you left? Did you go to university, school, that sort of side of things?
Yeah. So I'm one of these anomalies where I actually went into the profession that I got my degree in. So I did my degree in advertising. And that course was really kind of unique. And I think what I've discovered as I've gone on in my career is just how unique that course was. So, it was 35 hours a week, which is, almost a working week, which when you're at uni is quite strange. But we were also taught by and had a lot of guest lectures that were all in the industry. So everyone that taught us had worked in the industry, and then there were lots of guest lectures that brought in. So we were working quite a lot of time on live briefs, and it was as close to the real thing as you could get, kind of with the stabilizers still being on as I describe it. So I did that. I actually went to go work at an agency when I left uni, a small boutique agency. And I actually really didn't like it. I didn't like agency life at all. I loved the accounts that I worked on that I loved, but the ones that I just didn't enjoy. And, you kind of want to get really stuck into the work that you like, right? So I decided that agency life wasn't for me. I talked myself into a in-house position with a property investment company in Manchester, not knowing anything about property or investment, or, I was still quite green then as well. So not a whole lot about marketing, like, practically as well, other than what I'd already learned. But I started there as a marketing exec, and I ended up leaving there as head of Europe and Africa. So I was there for 5 years. They were an amazing company to work for, really invested in me, really saw my potential, I guess, and really encouraged that. So by 28, I was head of Europe and Africa, and traveling all over the world, and managing marketing campaigns in all of those territories, and managing teams as well in those territories, which was an unreal experience. And I think there's a lot of things that I learned there that I carry with me today.
I was going to say, what did you learn there specifically that has helped you, go on to what you're now doing?
So I think being an investment company, it was obviously very commercially focused. So, that real kind of commercial mindset of, if it was your pound, would you spend it? And that was very much how, I was kind of taught to put marketing campaigns together to really work out where the fat was, and the fact that you can make really great marketing campaigns very lean. But that is where that kind of obsession, I guess, with ROI and is this the best use to spend kind of came from. So that, I guess that's kind of where that got kind of instilled in me. I think the other thing that I learned there is how important the team is that you have around you. And I was very lucky to work with incredible teams, but I think that's kind of always been my benchmark of what a good team looks like, and how you run a good team, and how you have that kind of organization around what you're doing. So I left there, and then I went for a global role at another property investment company. And I think that was kind of where I decided that was the last place I was going to work for somebody else. I'd been very fortunate in what I'd done at the previous company, and I'd built myself a great reputation. And I kind of was having people come to me all the time saying, just bring your bag of tricks, just come and do what you do there, and had kind of built a bit of a name for myself.
From a mindset point of view, what kind of triggered that change of thought process that this is going to be the last place, this is going to be the last time I work for someone else?
I think what I was very aware of was that someone else had the ability to take my job away. And as great as you can be, within a business, and as I say, as kind of well thought of as I was there, and, well looked after, and definitely felt appreciated, it's not yours. And I'd seen just a couple of, things that happen naturally within businesses where they change, and, there are structure changes and stuff like that. And just became very aware of you're just not replaceable. Like, nobody is irreplaceable. So I, as I say, was being asked to kind of bring my bag of tricks everywhere. And I think that was another thing that I thought, I think I've got more to offer than just rinse and repeat of doing this for different people. So I knew that was the last place. I think if I'd had the confidence, I probably would have done what I went on to do after that first company, but I didn't, and shoulda, woulda, coulda, and all that. Instead, what I decided to do was start my business a month to the day before what we now know as lockdown happened back in 2020. Yeah, so so really it didn't matter when I started the business. I needed quite big balls to be able to do it. So I left there having done 18 months there, again kind of exhausted my bag of tricks, and was just kind of bored really. And my plan was just to go and be a consultant, just to be a marketing consultant to the industry that I'd worked in. 3 days a week, nice lifestyle business from my kitchen table. And it's just got a little bit out of hand, to be honest. So when I say I wasn't one of these people that grew up thinking I want to have my own business or want to work for myself. That was never a drive in me. I was very happy working for other people and really liked being part of that team. And I think that's one of the things I missed to start with, was that sense of team that you get when you work within a business. Being on your own is very lonely. And then there's being on your own, and then there's running your own business on your own as well. And that is a different type of loneliness, because you're already making it up as you go along. And then to have no one to even bounce an idea off, my partner at the time was very supportive, but he didn't have his own business and it was all new to both of us. I was obviously starting it at a really mad time that even people that had been in business for decades didn't really know how to handle. So there was a lot to deal with from the get-go, really.
So I'm just thinking, when you left your job, did you already have, like you say, you were going consulting, did you already have a client lined up? Did you have any business in the pipeline when you left that role?
Yeah, so I would love to say I was really brave and just went in one day and said, I'm off, I'm going to go and do this on my own. Yeah, just slam the door behind me. But no, I just kept getting approached by people. And it was when I was talking to a friend of mine who has his own agency, and, he was kind of saying to me, well, why don't you just do it for all of them? And I was like, I don't really know what you mean. I can't do that. It's not normally how it works. Someone just normally wants all of you. And he said, but if you're saying you can do this standing on your head with your eyes closed, and you don't need to be doing it 5 days a week for somebody, why don't you do it for all of them across 5 days? And I thought, yeah, that's not a bad idea. So I went back to them all and said, look, I don't want to come and work for you, but I'm thinking of doing this. If you're happy to work in that way, then I think we could probably do something. And a couple of them said, no, it's got to be you. And, all of you threw more money at me and everything else. But one said, no, that however it has to work for you is kind of what we want. So, and they're still a client to this day, actually. So, that kind of gave me the ability and the launch pads to be able to start the business. And I say that I started, in lockdown. I did. And my first 2 clients I had one in Manchester down the road, and I had one in Australia. And you couldn't get 2 people further apart, but it also didn't matter where anybody was, because I couldn't go and sit in a room with them anyway. So, it didn't matter that I was dealing with someone in Australia and someone with Manchester. They were both getting treated the same, because everything was, as you and I are talking today, over video.
Yeah. And I think the key thing that you did is you leveraged the risk as well, because most people don't start because they're worried obviously about getting that first paycheck again, because when you've worked for years about, every 25th, whenever it is, at the end of the week, end of the month, you get paid, you suddenly realize this is on me to get the money in. And if you're able to get a client already lined up, it just takes the pressure off.
Yeah. And also, at the time, obviously I was, my partner and I obviously had a conversation about it. And while we didn't have an endless pot of money to be able to support us both, we were fortunate with the job that he had. We were fortunate that, we did have reserves, and that it gave me that ability to be able to, do it. But I also was very conscious at the time I'm signing him up to this as well, because, he's also signing up to somebody that's now going to be self-employed, and there isn't that guarantee every month of the same amount of money coming in. And we've both been earning, really, really good money. So there's definitely part to it when you are in a relationship and you do make that decision that the other person is also signing up for self-employment in a way. And that brings with it, different pressures and stresses and stuff.
It certainly does. And the money side of things is obviously quite prominent, but it's also the mental side of things. It's getting over that fear factor of the fact that I've got to make all of the decisions now. I've got to run payroll. I've got to apply with government HMRC regulations. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. But if we go on to, so obviously you got 2 clients when you start out, how do you then look to expand that business? And at what point do you realise that those 3 days a week are now becoming 5 or 6 days a week?
So I realised that quite quickly. No, for the first, the first year or so, it was exactly that. It was just the 3 days a week, maybe 4 that I wanted. And I think for me, I was able to get a much better, and we can talk about work-life balance separately, because I think that's its whole conversation within itself. But I think that, because of the job that I'd had, because I was traveling so much and I was very busy, and it was early mornings and it was late nights, and I loved it. I was 28, so I didn't care. I was just doing it. I was able to get a much better work-life balance almost immediately. Even if I had been doing 5 days a week to start with, those 5 days were on my terms and when I wanted to start and when I wanted to finish. So that was kind of a big thing. So I felt like I had a lot of flexibility and kind of ownership over my time straight away. I think the point that I realized that this wasn't going to be a 3-day-a-week lifestyle business was when the demand for what I do changed from come and work with us to come and help us, come and support us. So I think what I'd kind of underestimated is that demand that there was for me as a employee still existed. It just was then in a different guise. And then I realized that in order to service all these people, there was going to have to be, more than me. And kind of 2 years in, a friend of mine who we went to uni together, we actually worked together at the first business that I was talking to you about. She worked in another part of the business and had been very successful there. And, they, again, had supported her and really championed her in her career and everything. And she was kind of getting to a point where she was getting a bit, in a rut about it and was thinking, do I go and do this for someone else? Or do I, do I kind of set up on my own? And we gone and had dinner one night and she was saying, I might set up on my own, and just asking me for my opinion on it, really. And I was very, very honest and just said, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of setup to do. You've got to build a business. You've got to build an awareness of yourself and And because we did very different types of marketing, I've always been very much on the commercial side of marketing. As I say, how are you going to make money from this? What is the ROI that is being driven? What's the purpose? That kind of side. She was very much on the other side. She was very creative, real activation, community building stuff. And it was a service that I couldn't offer and didn't offer within the business. So I kind of had to think about it and said to her, look, rather than you go and start on your own, why don't you come and join me? We can pivot what the agency does and be able to offer this real end-to-end marketing solution now. And rather than me just be able to go and advise people, we could actually be a full kind of marketing team for a fraction of what a full marketing team would cost. So we did, and that's kind of now how we're able to offer the breadth of services that we do. But a bit when I started on my own, and that demand for me and for what I do kind of was still there, and more so really because you're then already on the front foot going, I'm just going to come and consult and help you. The same thing happened to her. So we then realised very quickly the two of us can't do this. We're going to need to build that out, and also just what clients are asking for. We obviously didn't want to turn business away, and we knew that we could do it. So it was, very much a case of, right, okay, well, we're going to do this for this person now. So we need extra resource or support on that. And that's kind of how we've got to where we are, really. It's been very organic, I would say. And, this, hopefully this doesn't scare any clients, but there was never a plan. It was never we want to do this by this point. It's just happened.
I don't think I've spoke to a single business owner that has ever said they've written a plan down, it's actually happened.
That makes me feel better.
Everyone, either off air or on air, says we're all making it up as we go along.
We are.
Because no one knows the future. No one knows what's big next.
We're making the best decisions we can of the information we've got at the time, and if that plays out well, then it plays out well. It doesn't always, but that's all you could do. Unfortunately, none of us have a crystal ball.
Let's talk about this ROI side. So obviously you're very focused on the return on investment, just in case anyone's listening out there that doesn't know what ROI is. But how do you make sure, because it's, measuring campaigns is one of the hardest things you can do, especially if they're not online. How do you make sure that the campaign is being managed so that you actually get an ROI?
So you have to start with whatever the campaign is, online or offline. What is it you're trying to achieve? So what is the goal? So is the goal, we want more people to know about us? Is it just brand awareness? Is that what we're trying to do? Okay, fine. So you go, okay, brand awareness. We want more people to know what our brand is and what we do. Okay. How are we going to do that? Okay, well, if we're going to do that offline, that could be events, that could be pop-ups, that could be, there's a million different things that we could do. Okay, fine. So then we decide, right, it's going to be an event. Okay, cool. It's going to be an event. How are we going to, what is the content of that event going to be? What is the hook of that going to be? How are we going to capture those people? And that is the point. The point is, how do you capture the person? Because data, anyone will tell you, is the new commodity. Like, data is king, right? So no matter what you're doing, the goal is always to get someone's details, essentially, because you've got someone's details, you can provide them with information, you can sell to them, you can build a relationship with them. So really, and I've said this a couple of times, really, your focus needs to be on capturing someone's details, because that is how you are then able to go on to do what you want with that person and use it, obviously GDPR and everything else, but that is how you're able to do it. So it's really about working out where you want your sale to come. What do you want this person to do right now? You might want to sell to them eventually. We're working with a brand now who, they are in a sector where they're not going to be able to transact with anyone for 6 months, but they don't want to start that relationship in 6 months' time when they're trying to sell. They want to start building their brand and their proposition and their value now. So we're doing lots of offline activations where we're capturing people that want to come to this event or this pop-up or want to be involved in this or da-da-da. But ultimately what we're doing long term is we're creating a pool of people that when their product is ready to sell, we've got them and we're not just going out cold and trying to sell it off the shelf. So the ROI really is about what's your long term, and you have to look at it like that. So yeah, your goal might be in 12 months to sell something. Okay, so what do you need right now to make that more possible? There are going to be people in 12 months time who just buy it straight off the shelf, like no questions asked, but they're not everybody. So how do you get your biggest chunk of everybody? And that is starting as early as you can and starting to plant the seed in people's mind as to what you offer and what value you add. And I think, the way that kind of things are at the moment and have been going for a couple of years is consumers are really into authenticity and, what's in it for them. And the brands that kind of go, I'm not going to try and sell you anything right now, I just want you to come and spend time with me, as in the brands, are the ones that are going to do really well, because they're almost offering something for nothing before they ask you to part with your money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the key things that I liked about when I went onto your website and when I've seen you on social media, for example, is the no-fluff marketing approach. And we get approached by marketing companies quite regularly, and we know a few of the marketing terms. But could you just give us a kind of a breakdown of what does it mean, no fluff?
So to me, no fluff is like anything that's not important, or anything that is overcomplicated, or it's just the hardcore, how do you get what you want to achieve? And, we kind of touched on it before, but it's also around you can create something that looks fantastic and is beautiful, but is it actually going to achieve your objective? Does it tell someone what you want them to do? I think where a lot of campaigns often miss the mark is it gets too consumed with fluff and you lose the direction. Ultimately, and this is probably more relevant for kind of digital campaigns, but you have to signpost people. You have to remember what it is you want people to do. Simple things like if you're running a campaign on, I don't know, let's say you're running a paid Instagram campaign, right? And you want the objective of that campaign is to get somebody to buy a book, right? So your ad is, this is the book, what's your call to action? Your call to action shouldn't be find out more, because you want them to buy a book, right? So it should be buy this book now, or visit our website, or whatever. Okay, so that's the first thing. When you then take them to the page where you want them to do the thing you've asked them to do, tell them what to do. If you're trying to sell a book and your CTA is buy the book now, and then you send them to a page which is look at our fantastic range of books, that's completely confusing. That there's fluff there that's got in the way, because you're not telling them what you want them to do. You need to set really clear funnels and really clear direction as to what you want people to do. And I see a lot of campaigns that miss that mark because they don't think about it as a journey. They think about it as, this is what the campaign creative looks like in a box. This is what the landing page looks like in a box. This is what the post-sale journey looks like in a box. and it's all treated as if it's in its own vacuum, and it shouldn't be. It really needs to run seamlessly through so that every breadcrumb that you drop leads on to the next one. Don't confuse people, because they'll bounce, they'll go somewhere else, and somewhere else that's thought about their campaign much more holistically without the fluff will get the sale.
Yeah. And I think that's often the problem with marketing, isn't it? That, like you say, it depends what the end in mind is and what people actually need to achieve once the campaign's in play.
And also who's been involved in it as well, because you can end up in a situation where you get decisions by committee. And I really hate that. It's like one of my absolute pet peeves. But it can be very difficult when you're working with clients, because often you are dealing with committee, because, you know, you've got your stakeholders on this side in the agency, and then you've got your stakeholders client side. But, you know, the no fluff, no bull approach runs through all of us as well as people within Co & Co. And we're very clear on, you've asked us to come in and help because you're missing something. Part of that help is helping you have complete clarity on what it is that we're asking people to do. You don't have to ask someone to do 5 things all at once. Like, build the journey, work out, you know, what is the least amount of investment you need from somebody to start with, and start with that, then build up, because you have to build trust, and you have to build, you know, kind of a relationship with somebody. It's like anything in life. You know, I've only started talking to you today and met you today. Probably wouldn't share my mum's maiden name and banking details with you today. But give it a year, you know, we become friends, something like that maybe you would then start to share that information. So it's the same when you're trying to sell something to someone. You have to drop those breadcrumbs, and the 5 things that you want people to do, that one of them might be to spend £1 million with you. It's not going to be the first question you ask, right? So what are the other 4, and how do you build up to, and now could you do this for me?
No, I love that analogy. And it's I guess it feeds into that community element that you were saying earlier about almost building a community. How does a brand that obviously wants to, let's just say, launch a product, go about building a community?
There's a few different ways, and, you know, without giving away the playbook, I think one of the things that brands really need to focus on, and it's becoming more and more kind of important, is they really need to invest in offline. They really need to be coming out of the office, coming out of the shop, showing human to human, and really trying to build those connections in real life. People want experience. People want, you know, tactile. I can remember years ago at uni about this case study of, at Christmas, I think it was America or somewhere, they'd done this experiment where they were trying to, it was either like a Sega Mega Drive or a Scalextric or something like that, and they took kids into like a room, and they showed some of the kids pictures of the games and stuff, and so there was like 5 games on a screen, and they said, you know, which one do you want? And everyone kind of got a bit of a fair share. Then they took the kid into another room, and they had 4 pictures on the screen, and then they gave the kid the option of going, or you could have this, like Scalextric. And the percentage of kids that wanted the Scalextrics because they touched it and they felt it was massive. Even if those kids wouldn't ordinarily have picked that kind of toy, the fact that they were able to touch it and feel it meant that they felt ownership over it and they wanted it more. So the more that you can put your brand in someone's hands, and the more that they can touch it and feel it, then the better chance you have of building community. And what we're seeing is a lot of brands that started life online. You know, Gymshark is probably the best case study of this that I use all the time. Gymshark started as an online retailer, and then they went and got commercial property on Regent Street, some of the most expensive commercial property in the world, and opened a shop. But they didn't open a shop, they opened a community hub, essentially, because when you go into that, if you've ever been into it, it's the most insane place in the world in the most wonderful way. Because the last thing it is a shop. It's huge to start with. It's absolutely massive, much bigger than a shop would need to be. But you don't go in there to buy something. You could buy something, and you probably will, but you can also go in there and there'll be an activation happening. You can do a class. You can look at their new products. You can talk to them. You can really immerse yourself in it. And I would challenge anyone to go into that shop for 20 minutes, walk around and leave. I just don't think that will happen, because what they've done is they've created an opportunity to put the brand in people's hands and get them to engage with it and touch it and feel it and want it. And they have sold more off the back of it. And everyone said they were crazy. You know, you take an online retailer where there's, you know, small overheads, you've got warehouses and stuff like that, but you've certainly not got prime commercial real estate in London. Represent have just done it. You know, they're starting to open up their stores now, and they've started online as well. So the brands that get it, and it's not just about, you know, take it from offline to online and build it and they will come. It doesn't work like that. You have to have that strong kind of proposition around it. And both of those brands that I was talking about, when they started building their communities, even though we're talking about online, what they didn't do is they didn't fall into the trap of what everyone else does, where it's go and get the most well-known celeb in the world to wear your stuff, and that will sell stuff. That doesn't really work now. Gymshark went into the lifting community, they went into the fitness community, and they found people who had, you know, small 5,000-10,000 people followings, but they had a real engaged audience, and they aligned themselves to them and said, we are you, you are us. And, you know, they are still today ambassadors of Gymshark, and they've got massive followings off the back of Gymshark and Gymshark. So this symbiotic relationship. So if you are going to build a community, go and build it offline is what I would say, but also go and pick out we call them Attenboroughs, like your, protect at all costs, like the people that they are like the people that you really have to look after, because you don't want anything bad to happen to them. Go and find those people for your brand, and go and find those people that are having conversations with, you know, people that trust them, and that's how you do it. You have to, it's a bit like being funny. You don't get to say you're funny, you have to wait for someone else to tell you. It's the same with your brand. You can try and influence it, but ultimately other people will tell you what your brand is. So the more you can align and bring on side people that are aligned with you, the more your brand will come across in the way that you want it to.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I love Gymshark as well. And I mean,
I'm obsessed with them.
Meteoric rise is incredible as well. And obviously, I wanted to go into that a little bit, because obviously personal brand was really big for them. How have you kind of built your own personal brand, or used your personal brand to kind of benefit your business? Obviously for people out there who are, you know, business owners or looking to become a business owner.
Yeah, I mean, personal brand is really important, and it's actually one of the things that, you know, when I say that we do branding, we do branding in the traditional sense, but we also work with people that want to build a personal brand as well. And I think, you know, it's probably easy for me, it is easy for me to sit here as the owner of Co & Co and say, oh yeah, I built this brand and everything, because Co & Co just started as me. You know, the whole ethos of Co & Co, the tone of voice, everything is very me. I'm a very direct, no fluff, no bull person, and that is what the business has become, because that's what I am, and that had to be part of the proposition. But that has also been the kind of greatest strength in growing my own personal brand, is I've stayed very true to that. And I think, you know, we've probably got clients that will say their first interaction with me was, you know, maybe a bit, oh wow, she's not backwards in coming forwards, because I just don't see the point in it. However, what that's also meant is we've worked with people that like that, and they want that kind of approach, or they need that injection into what they're doing or into their business. We've said no to people that, you know, that doesn't complement. And, you know, I've been very honest again and just said, you're going to hate it, I'm going to hate it. It's not going to be an enjoyable project. So, you know, let's not do that. But for a business owner, you know, in this day and age, having that personal brand is really important, because when you're starting out and it is just you, and it normally is just you, that is what it's built around. So you need that to attract the right kind of clients. But you also then need it when you're attracting employees. And I think that's one of the things that I maybe underestimated, is when we've built the team, the amount of people that have gone and done their homework on me, and in the interview have said, actually, I really like your whole kind of approach, and I like the fact that you're very straight talking and everything else. That's got me some really good employees, because they like that and they respect that. So it is really important. But I would also say that anybody who is working for somebody, having a personal brand is becoming even more important. And there's actually a lot to be said now for recruiters who, when they're putting out job ads, businesses want people that have got an established brand, because it means they've got a voice, it means they've got a following. And a bit like we were talking about community before, it really all comes down to making things more personable. And, you know, we always say to businesses, we do a lot of LinkedIn work with people, LinkedIn workshops and stuff like that, and helping them how to use that platform better. But we always say that the individual should amplify the business, and the business should amplify the individual. So if your LinkedIn page is talking about your turnover or an award you won or something else, No one really gives a shit. They really don't. What they care about is how you care about your people. So celebrating the wins of your individuals is massive. And if you're looking at a business that you want to go and work for, seeing that, you know, kind of respect, I guess, and that admiration for the people that work within the business is huge. And then you're more likely to get your employees putting on social media what a great place it is to work, or, you know, they were able to do X, Y, and Z with their family because they work at this place. So really is a two-way relationship. But I would say to anybody starting a business, really think about what your brand is, and don't think about what you want it to be. What actually are you? And go and ask other people, you know, go and ask your partner, go and ask your parents, go and ask people that don't really like you very much, like what your brand is, and really find out, and then lean into that. And, you know, I mean, today I'm not dressed in all black, but normally I'm dressed in all black. And I can remember doing a workshop with somebody, this guy said to me, so was this like a conscious decision that you were just going to wear black all the time? And I was like, no, it wasn't. Like, I just do. Like, I just always wear it.
I wear black all the time, actually. I just realised that now.
You know, yeah, like, don't go that deep. And don't try and be something that you're not. And, you know, there's all the memes at the moment, isn't there, about Mark Zuckerberg and like this brand transformation that he's been on and stuff. But like, don't be extreme, because it will come off as not authentic. It will come off as, you know, fake, and people won't buy into it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of gold in there, I think. And, you know, like you say, with personal branding, and it opens doors as well as the key thing. And especially, yeah, if you're an employee and you have any kind of vision to start your own business, if you've already got a platform to help you with that, yeah, it's going to help hugely, isn't it?
I mean, the amount of people that I get that will message me and say, you know, let's go and chat about this and go for a Guinness, because I talk about Guinness all the time, and I've got it in my LinkedIn profile, like the Guinness loving. Yeah, like I've got it in my LinkedIn profile, like Guinness loving, ROI-Obsessed. So the amount of people that will message me like, cool, let's go for a Guinness. And, you know, most of my initial meetings are normally in a pub with somebody, because that's where I feel the most relaxed. It's where you can just be a bit more chilled. I very rarely have a meeting with someone in a meeting room. And, you know, the team say I call it the vibe check or the pint check. If we're going for a pint, we're probably for you. So, yeah, all those things are really important. And they are what helps you to build rapport and trust with somebody. And ultimately, whether it's a client or it's a consumer, someone is going to transact with you and give you money. So they're only going to do that if they trust you, right?
Yeah, people buy from people, don't they? And that's 100%. The thing. If they like you before you've even got in the room, you're miles ahead.
Yeah, and if you can sell to the person, you can sell to the business. I genuinely believe that.
This podcast is sponsored by Team Building Experiences. If you're planning a team building event, away day, or corporate event, then check out team-building-experiences.co.uk and state podcast 15 in the comments to receive 15% off your proposal. I wanted to mention earlier about being direct, and one of the great things I think about being direct is people know where you are. And one of the things you've put out there, especially I was looking on your LinkedIn and stuff like that, is about not hiring graduates, which is one thing that not many people say. What?
Yeah, so well, I don't know if I'd say it now after the response that I got.
What's the philosophy behind it? Is it a personal experience, or is it just something that has come from experience?
Yeah, 100% it's come from experience. And that, kind of harping back to what we were just saying about the personal brand thing before, one of the key things that we always say to people is, you can have an opinion if you can back it up. And I very much backed up what I was saying there. What I said was based on 10 years of recruiting people and building teams, and what my experience over those 10 years has shown me. And it certainly wasn't a dig at graduates in any way. If anything, it was a dig at universities. But yeah, so it actually ended up on LinkedIn European news and everything. That was crazy. But just for context, obviously for your listeners, I did a post on LinkedIn about how we weren't recruiting anybody into Co&Co in an entry-level position straight out of university. Now, that's not to say you can't have gone to university to work at Co&Co. I went to university. Sophie, who's creative director, went to university. So I'm not saying you can't have gone to university. What I'm saying is you can't come and cut your teeth here because you're just not at the right kind of level that I need you to be at. And what I mean by that is, I've sat across from countless grads, and again, this is not a dig at grads, this is a dig at universities. I've sat across from countless grads who have such a sense of importance and entitlement that can only have been put there by the university, that they should be able to come in and run a team, or they should be able to come in and work direct on client accounts, or, have a high level of responsibility. And that's just not how it works. That's just not the real world. And, I can remember leaving university, and the best advice I was given was go and be a helpful sponge. Go in and learn as much as you can, be as helpful as you can. And busy people always could do with an extra pair of hands. So even if that extra pair of hands is, can I make you a cup of tea? Can I take notes for you? Can I do something like that? That work ethic, I think, has gone. And my favourite was I sat across from a girl who left university, really lovely girl. And I said to her, kind of, what do the next 18 months, 2 years of your life look like? Because you shouldn't know what you want to do in 5 years, 10 years. I don't know what I want to do in 10 years. So you certainly shouldn't know. And she said in the next 2 years, she'd really like my job. And she probably thought she was being complimentary. But when you've been doing what I've been doing for 10 years and you've, gone through everything that happens in those 10 years, it doesn't come across complimentary. It comes across really arrogant. And there was just this kind of expectation, which I was fed up with, to be honest. So we decided to go down a different road and, take people in that had either decided not to go to university and, had done a couple of years somewhere else, or actually the road that we've gone down most recently with our most recent recruit is apprenticeship. And, we've got a fantastic girl who, her friend has actually gone to university to do marketing for 3 years, and she started a marketing apprenticeship and is working with us. Both 18, both going to have very different experiences. But, she went and saw her friend kind of recently at uni, who's obviously their freshers now, and it's just started to get into their course. And what our girl has done in the 4 weeks that she's been with us is more than this girl is going to do in a year of her course. And I think that there's a lot to be said for somebody that wants to kind of come in, get stuck in, learn, ask questions, be that helpful sponge and grow within an organisation. And I got taken on by a lot of grads on that post as well. And kind of what I said back to them was the fact that you're a graduate or a soon-to-be graduate and you're on LinkedIn and you're creating a profile for yourself, you are the exception and not the rule. So you will go on and you will do fantastic things. I have no doubt about that. The problem is not every grad is like you. So take that as an opportunity and absolutely run with it, because you are where you should be. You are on LinkedIn and you are interacting with people in the industry and you are trying to build a profile. Every grad should be doing that, and they're not. And obviously we sit in front of the majority and not the minority, right? So that was very much my opinion, and I stand by it. And I had half the people who thought I was really brave and bang on. I had half the people that wanted to burn me at the stake, but I'm still here, and I'm very happy with our approach.
People get very emotional about opinions, don't they? And things like that. They get very.
Absolutely.
I mean, I agree. We've had a mixed bag. We've had some great grads, and we've had some that, like you said, they expect to be managers within 6 months. It's just the way it goes, isn't it? And thinking back to my own, when I came out of university, I remember them kind of the last talk was like, you're going to go out into the world and you're going to be, fantastic in your roles, and, you should be expected to walk into these positions. And then you go into the real world and you're like, yes, definitely not like that at all. Like you need to learn for 2-3 years.
You do. Yeah, you do. And, I think university teaches you some good skills. It teaches you how to remember stuff. It teaches you how to read books, but that's really all you're getting. And I think, again, I'm just thinking back to another time where I sat down with somebody and they wanted to sit down and do like all audience personas and work out all the different, demographics and everything else. Like, we have a week to turn this around. We have to go and get as much information as we can, churn it, and then we have to produce something off the back of that. So yes, I would love to sit down for every single client and do in-depth audience personas and market research and go and interview people. But that's not the reality. So I think that, that book that teaches you all that wonderful theory is great, but that is not the real world at all. And if you don't learn that quick, you become very irritating, in my experience.
Yeah, it's I think someone told me once that if you can just go out there and get a job with an entrepreneur, in 2 to 3 years, you'll learn so much more, in any business than necessarily going to university. And I think my experience, even though I went to university, was very similar. That's what I ended up doing, and then ended up starting my own job after that, and then becoming multi-business owner essentially. But When you first started, what was the one thing that was kind of the most challenging that you either didn't expect or did expect?
I think the most challenging thing, and we kind of touched on it before, was that I underestimated how lonely it would feel. I underestimated how on your own you are. And, you know, as much as, I mean, listen, you probably know this yourself. You start a business and suddenly everyone thinks you're a millionaire overnight and you're swanning off on private jets and, you know, you can just do whatever you want. And it's probably the skintest you'll ever be when you start a business. You probably never have less money in your life. But I think that kind of expectation of people but you've always been really successful doing it, so you must be really successful now. It doesn't work like that. And I think that was kind of difficult. I think that loneliness though was the hardest thing. Just as you say, every decision is yours. And if you're not sure about something, there's not really many people that you can turn to or ask. And even the people you can turn to and ask, they've not got the same skin in the game, or they might not understand it in the same way, or there's always that like lingering, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
But then I think what I learned on the flip side that very quickly was just make the decision, just make it, whatever it is, make it. And then really lean into that. Not so much that you die on that hill, but just pick something. Again, like I said, with the information you have at the time, what is the best option? And, you know, I've talked on other podcasts before about some options are what arm do you want to break first? You can't wait for a better option to come along. Sometimes you just have two shit ones and you just have to pick. Make them really quick, like make them the quickest, and then it's more painless. But yeah, I think that was the thing I struggled with the most.
I can resonate with that because, like I said before we actually came on air, that one of the reasons I set this podcast up was because essentially being a business owner is often the loneliest position. You don't have anyone often that you can turn to, and to be able to hear that other people have also had those experiences or have been through those challenges just makes a big difference. Them,
you know, there are still decisions
100%.
that I have to make that I think, fucking hell, I really wish I didn't have to make this decision. But I guess what I do is I kind of think back and think, well, do you know what? That decision that I had to make 2 years ago, now as I had to make it, would seem like the easiest decision in the world. So this eventually, it's all relative, isn't it? Those first big decisions that you make, you know, the first hire, the first office, the first of everything is really scary. And then when you've done it, you kind of think, I could make that decision again. So that feeling never stops, I don't think, or it's certainly not stopped for me about when do the scary decisions end. They don't. You know, we're going through a process now where we need to move office because we're growing out of this one. We need a different type of space. But I can remember getting this office that we're in now and, you know, literally working out on a piece of paper, like, you know, all the outgoings, all the income, everything, just to be able to go to sleep at night. And obviously it was fine, but now I'm kind of like, God, we need to get out of here. We need something bigger. We need, you know, and I think that was only, God, when did we move into this office? Like the end of last year. And I can remember thinking, I can remember thinking, God, this is a massive decision. And now a year on, I'm like, this is not enough. Like we need something else. So I don't think those decisions ever go away. I just think they become different decisions that you have to make.
Definitely. I think I've kind of learnt over the years that your original gut feeling often ends up being the right decision. And even if you don't want that to be correct, it does tend to be the right one. And it's just, it's almost like having the confidence to go through with that gut feeling.
100%.
What advice would you give to someone that's looking to start a business, Jordan?
Oh, God, don't do it. No, I'm joking. And what advice would I give them? I think the advice I would give is be realistic about it. You know, it isn't everything that you see on social media, even LinkedIn, like social media, whatever platform, is a highlights reel. You know, I don't put on LinkedIn when I've had a really shit day or when, you know, we've not won a project, or sometimes I'll share that, but the majority of the time I'm sharing all the good stuff. And just be realistic about it. It is hard. It is graft. It is a lot of work for no thanks a lot of the time. You know, it's especially in the line of work that I'm in agency land, there are times where we've done amazing work and I know it's amazing and the client's really happy with it. You don't always get a thank you. And if you're doing it for a thank you, go and do something else, because they don't come thick and fast, because that's your job at the end of the day and that's what you're being paid to do. but just be realistic. Understand that it takes time. Understand that the hallmarks of a successful business isn't driving a Lamborghini and, you know, going on private jets and going on holidays. That is often the result of someone being quite unrisk averse to financial decisions. But I think that, you know, as I said, I know people that run much bigger agencies than me, but every month they're chasing payroll. They're never in the black. They are constantly hiring people and letting people go, and it's really unstable. I think one of my things, I'm incredibly risk averse, which I actually went to a talk recently and was talking about, you know, starting a business, and there was a lady there from a bank, and she was like, but that's the biggest risk you could ever make. Whereas, you know, what I was saying at the start of the call was, I don't think it is the biggest risk ever made, because it's mine. Like, no one can take this away from me. I could lose every client tomorrow, but my job is still my job, and, you know, whatever else. But just, we've never taken any investment or any money into the agency. And I you know, sitting here today, I stand by that decision and say we never would. If we had, would we have grown quicker? Probably. Would I have been able to sleep at night? Probably not. So, you know, just work out, how do you want to do it? Like, what are you prepared to do? And look, if you do just want the Lamborghini and the nice house and the private jet holidays, fine. But what are you doing it for? And have that plan of what comes at the end. You know, I'm very clear that I'm doing this to sell it. It's not getting passed anywhere. It's not a legacy thing. I've no dreams of this being a family business. This is just what I'm good at to make money. And I want to do that for the least amount of time possible and sell it as quick as I can. But to do that, it has to work well. And I think some people that can sometimes go into a business thinking, I'm going to exit this, are thinking on really short time frames. I think you still want to make sure the work that you're doing while you're doing it is good. You know, I'm saying do it and sell it. I'm talking about like 10, 15 years. I'm not talking about, you know, 2-3 years. But know what it is that you want to achieve, what risks you're prepared to take, and just be realistic. It's not easy. It's not a walk in the park at all. And that you have to make every single decision.
That's great advice. And I did hear someone say that it takes 10 years to build a business. And often that's what people don't want to hear, because
I think Messi has this great quote that it took him 18 years to become an overnight success. And I think every person starting a business should have that tattooed on them, because that is true. Yeah. You know, we've been going 5 years and, you know, we've got a great reputation. 99% of our business all comes through referrals. We're in a position where we can, you know, pick and choose to a degree who we work with. And I'm comfortable with that. You know, I'm happy that we're doing really good work with people that we want to work with, and everyone's getting paid every month, and, you know, we're good.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Like you said, you know, you can run at 100 miles an hour and things be chaotic all the way along, or you can build a nice steady business that is going to eventually hit your goal at the end, which may take 10 years. Hasn't taken 5, but may take 10, but it's hit your goal, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Phenomenal talking to you. Fountain of knowledge, loads and loads of amazing advice there. How can people who've listened to the conversation find more about Co & Co and also yourself?
So on our website, we are coandco.com, but also myself on LinkedIn, Jordan Stachini. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person on there called that, so you'll find me, and it's obviously got Guinness in my bio as well. But yeah, I'm on there pretty much all the time. I'm pretty, as you say, prolific on there. But yeah, that's us.
Lovely. Well, thanks so much for coming on to the We Built This Business podcast, Jordan.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So if you enjoyed this podcast, if you could do one thing for me, you can either like, follow or subscribe to the channel on your podcast listening app. Just enables us to grow the show.